you look at your agenda, the session after mine is called the role of the president. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of the president as well, because each of you have a very important role all of next year, and that's to encourage and motivate your members to be the best Rotarians they can be, according to the duties as described in the Constitution of Rotary, by performing those duties as the best that they can. Well, what are the duties? First duty is they pay their dues on time. Can you encourage someone who has forgotten to pay their dues or motivate them to pay their dues? Of course you can. The second duty is that they must attend as many meetings as they can. And if someone stops attending your meeting, I'm sure you have words of encouragement for them to continue to come back to Rotary. The third duty of a Rotarian is to work on service projects that the club does. And if you see someone sitting back, not working on, not participating, you would have some words of encouragement and some motivation as to why they want. You might even give them a little task in that particular service project. And the fourth one is that it is the duty of every Rotarian to support the Rotary Foundation. Now, how are you, the president of your Rotary Club, going to encourage and motivate your members to support the Rotary Foundation? Well, I have a couple of suggestions for you. One is that you lead by example. Lead by example. You pay or make your donation to the Rotary Foundation. You make your donation to polio eradication. You lead, don't send people to the Rotary Foundation walk. You go yourself. You go to the grant management seminar. You go to the foundation dinner. You lead by example. The second thing you can do is during the year, you can have speakers come in and talk about the Rotary Foundation. They can talk about the importance of giving to the Rotary Foundation. They can talk about the grant program. They can talk, you can bring in a scholar, a global scholar, or you can bring in a peace scholar. So you bring in topics or speakers who will speak about topics on the Rotary Foundation. November, the month of November, is Rotary Foundation Month. You should have at least a couple of speakers talk about foundation topics in the month of November, but don't just leave it there. Have it during the year as well. This next thing that you can do is you can monitor your club's foundation reports online. You can go into My Rotary. At the top, there's a thing that says Foundation. Click, don't have to click, just put your mouse on that. A drop-down menu will come. It says Foundation Reports. Click on the Foundation Reports, and there it is. All your members and what they've done. Well, what can you do with those? Well, you can look to see that Joe Blow, who's been in your club for 11 years, has given a total of $72.81 to the Rotary Foundation in those 11 years. Does he need motivation and encouragement? Yes. Sally, though, Sally in your club's been in a Rotary 3 years, and she's already given $500. Does she need encouragement and motivation? Probably not. She gets it. So there's things that you can look at in these reports. You can also see that Joe Blow has $982 so far. He's given that much money to Rotary. He's only $18 away from a Paul Harris recognition. So those are the types of things that you can get from those reports. And the last thing that you can do is to gain some knowledge about the foundation yourself. You know, there's an awful lot of misinterpretation and not knowledge going around about the foundation. So that's what I hope to do with you this morning, is to give you some knowledge that you can use for motivation, to help motivate your members to do their duty and give to the Rotary Foundation. Well, we start with, who's proud to be a Rotarian? You ask them, who's proud to be a Rotarian? They should all put up their hand. And when they say why are you proud? It all comes down to the great things that Rotary does in the world, the great projects that we do in the world. That's why we're proud. And you have to get them to see that those projects could not have happened without the Rotary Foundation. You can ask them, have you ever written a check to dig a well in rural Africa? The answer is probably no. Have you ever bought books to fill a whole school in India? The answer is probably no. Have you ever bought medicine to equip a maternity hospital in rural India? The answer is probably no. But guess what? They have done all those things. They have done all those things. Because when you give to Rotary Foundation, you share your resources with the rest of the Rotary world. You share your resources with the rest of the Rotary world. Let me give you an example. I meant to bring that water over. Thank you. Here's my example. You've got the Rotary Club of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the Rotary Club of Nakuru, Kenya. They decide they want to give water to a rural area in Kenya. This village doesn't have fresh water. You know the story. The girls and the women have to walk 3 miles to get water and back. That's their job. And we want to stop them from doing that and provide fresh, clean water for them. So they each put in, the Oklahoma and the Nakuru, Kenya, put in money. But they still don't have enough. So they pool their money and they send it to Rotary International and they get a grant. And the grant is enough with their money to dig the well. So there's an example of a project that would not get done without the involvement of the Rotary Foundation. And there's 5,000, roughly, of those projects going on every single year. Okay? That's a lot. So when you read, oh, sorry, I'm going too fast. The foundation helped with those projects. Where did the foundation get their money to be able to give them the grant? Well, they got it from you, from your donations that you give to the Rotary Foundation. And we're going to see how that works in a minute. So when you read about a project in the Rotarian magazine, and it's a great project, you say, oh boy, those clubs should be really proud that they did this. You should be proud too, because your money helped fund those projects. So you should take great pride in that project. Even though your club didn't do it, you played a part, a very important part, by giving to the foundation. So the grant was there in order to get it. So where does the money go when your members give to the Rotary Foundation? We have 1.2 million Rotarians, and they're all being asked to give money to the Rotary Foundation. Well, believe it or not, it all goes into one pot or one fund represented by this bag. It's called the Annual Programs Fund. And the Annual Programs Fund, just what it says, it funds the programs of the foundation, and it's annual, which means on July 1st, we start throwing money into it. From all over the world. Every Rotarian who gives to the foundation, it goes into here. And at the end of June, if there's anything left in here, it's emptied out. So on July 1st, they start all over again. That's why you're asked to give every year. What types of things do they pay for? I'm sorry if you can't read that. It's the big one, humanitarian grants. This is where the grants come from, out of this money. Okay? That's the one thing. The second thing, global scholarships. It used to be called ambassadorial scholarships. Those things get paid for out of this money. Vocational training teams. They get paid for out of this money. And Peace Scholars. That program gets paid for out of this money as well. So I'm just going to put that there. Let's see how this works, because it's really miraculous. It's really extraordinary. Here is your donation. And I apologize if you can't see this. Your donation dollars. I'm going to put your in there. When you make your donation, you send it to the Rotary Foundation, TRF, or you can put TRFC Canada. And I'm going to put in brackets annual fund because it's the annual one. One thing that people forget, and it's really costly, is that people say, well, I sent $100 into the Rotary Foundation, but it only shows up as $70. I don't have to tell you why. Okay? Everything is reported in US dollars. So really, if you want to send in and be reported as sending in $100, you have to send in $130 in order to register as $100. Well, what does the Rotary Foundation do when it gets it? Well, you may be surprised to hear they don't do anything with it. They don't spend it. They invest it. They invest it for 3 years. They invest it for 3 years. They take the interest that they get on the investments and they pay for running the foundation. Things like paying the electricity bill, paying the telephone bill, paying for paper, paying for the secretary's salaries, the IT guys, Daryl, everybody, you know. So they just use the interest to do that. So at the end of 3 years, the amount that you guys gave here is still there. Then they do something absolutely spectacular. What they do is the reason why Rotary has succeeded for 112 years. It's very, very important. They give you your money back. What? No other charity does this. They give you your money back. They add up all the money that each of you gave and all the money of the Rotarians in your clubs and add it all up for the district, and they give half of it to this district. Give it back to the district. We call it district designated funds. The district designated funds. No other charity does this. The other 50% goes into something called the World Fund. Now remember my example? Tulsa, Oklahoma, Nakuru, Kenya. They each put in money. Then they got a grant from the foundation. Where'd the grant come from? Came from this World Fund. The World Fund. And where did the World Fund get its money? Your donations. The donations of everybody around the world. Think about this World Fund for a minute. There are 530, roughly, districts in the world, all over the world. And every district is doing this. Every district is putting half of the money that they raise into the World Fund. This is a huge fund, huge. But they're allowed to give grants to me. The money, some of the money that I get on a grant may have come from a Rotarian in Africa or a Rotarian in Australia. Because when you give to the Rotary Foundation, you share your resources with the rest of the Rotary world. Okay, so we've got this DDF. Lars isn't here. You'll be involved in it this year. What do we do with it? Let's say we raise $400,000 in the district. Half of that is $200,000. What do we do with it? Well, see if I can get this right. Up to 50% can be spent on district grants. Up to 50%. The other 50% or more is spent on global grants. So why wouldn't a club want to do? How many have not accessed district grants? Do you know? Is there anybody here that knows that their club hasn't accessed any district grants? Why wouldn't they? Because getting this money came from your donation. It's your money. Why wouldn't you access it? It's your money. You should be asking for the district grants. And there's a form that you fill out and so on and so forth. For a global grant, it's bigger. So you've got your donations and the club donations, and then you ask the district for help, and they get this global grant part from the DDF, and together they send it into the foundation and they get a bigger grant. Okay? That's the way it works in most of the world. But we are so lucky to live in Canada. The Canadian government, whether it be Tory or Liberal, thinks the world of Rotary. They love our global grant system. I always forget this word that you ever have a word that you can't get it out? They love our global grant system because they love the 6 areas of focus. It appeals to them. They love our stewardship model that's built into our grants so they know there's no corruption. And they love the sustainability factor. Because of that, the Canadian government, I know it'll be hard for some of you to believe, the Canadian government gave the Canadian Rotary clubs $6 million to use in global grants. Over the next 5 years. We've already had 1 year. Now you say, oh, do I have to apply to the government for this money? No, they've already given us the money. You apply to a group of Rotarians who are in the zone, the big zone, who are in the grant committee. And as long as it fits the criteria, bang, you get the government grant. So this is the Canadian, that should be C. The Canadian government can give you assistance with the global grants. And this really makes a big difference. Because now, instead of just going, your donations, the global grant from the DDF, and then over there, you get your donations, the club donations, the district DDF donations. The Canadian government adds the 2 of them together, and that's how much they give you. And then all together, they go over to the Rotary Foundation and gives you that. It really increases the amount of grant. Now, I'm not going to go into the grants today, but this whole thing, including the Canadian government, how to access the district grants, what to do about the global grants, and how to access the Canadian government grant, that's all going to be talked about next week at the Grant Management Seminar. Okay, the Grant Management Seminar. Remember I told you about leading by example? It's going to happen during your year if you're going to get a grant. So it's important that you're there. In your package, there's a memorandum of understanding, and you have to sign it because it's going to be in your year, but so does the current president. So bring some people, maybe the chairman of your international committee and so on and so forth. That's next week. Okay. So far, we've talked about the annual fund, the fund that you're doing every year. But there's something we haven't talked about yet. What is it?
Polio plus.
Really? Polio. Polio eradication. And when you give to the Rotary Foundation for polio, it goes into a different fund than this. When you write a check to the Rotary Foundation, it goes into the annual programs fund. If you want to give money to the polio fund, you have to say it's for polio. Or if you don't, it goes into this fund. We have people who say, I gave money to the Rotary Foundation this year. It doesn't show on my report that I gave any money. We gave $5,000. Well, who'd you give it to? Well, we wrote a check to the foundation for polio. That's great. Goes into this fund here for polio. What do they pay for? One thing. Polio eradication. There's nothing else in the bag. They only pay for polio eradication. If these people run out of money because they've given out too much grant money, they can't take it from polio. And vice versa. So this is a separate fund. It's important that you understand that when you give to the Rotary Foundation, it's going into the annual fund, and it goes through this process. When you give to polio, it goes into a different fund, and it doesn't go through this process. You don't get half your money back from giving to polio. It all goes into polio.
Does the Canadian government sponsor that?
No.
Too?
Well, yes and no. I don't want to be vague on that, but I just read something just recently that the amount that the Canadian government was matching doubling has run out. So we're all being asked to lobby our MPs to reinstate that. So I don't want to say too much about that because that's another whole story. So those are two funds, and they're separate. And make sure your people know that they're separate. We need people to give to the foundation so that we can do the work of the foundation and do the wonderful deeds and the grants that we get from all around the world. We also need people to give to polio because you know why. We're so close. They just released $30 million out of this bag, out of this fund, just about a week or so, a month ago, to help fight polio eradication in Africa and around Nigeria, the states around Nigeria, and in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But guess what? We're not done there. We're so dependent on the markets and in investments. They started another fund. It's called the Endowment Fund or the Permanent Fund. It's now called the Endowment Fund. But Ted, you say, if you give to the Rotary Foundation, it goes in this bag. If you give to the polio, it goes in this bag. How do you give money into the endowment fund? The endowment fund is there in case there's a problem with the markets, or in case our membership drastically reduces and we haven't got enough money. This will keep the foundation going in perpetuity. Well, what do they pay for out of this? Nothing. The money that you put into the endowment fund never gets spent. If there's money now, it's invested in the interest, like the other interest, goes to run the foundation office. Well, if they're not spending money, how do you get money in there then? Because if you send it to the foundation, it's going in here. If you send it to polio, it's going in here. The easiest way is to become a benefactor to the Rotary Foundation. Why is it easy? Because it doesn't cost you a cent. Zero. Nothing. Now, all you do is you put a little codicil in your will that says, when I die, I will give a minimum of $1,000 US to the Rotary Foundation. Now, some of you are sitting in homes that are 500, if you're in Toronto, $900,000. $1,000 isn't that much. So, to become a benefactor, all you have to do is fill out the form, send it into Rotary International. You get nice little recognition that all Rotarians will recognize is the wings that go on your pin. That says you're a benefactor. You're supporting the Rotary Foundation, which is one of the duties of a Rotarian. If you've got a little bit more money, minimum $10,000, you can become a bequest society member. It's similar to the benefactor in that you don't pay anything now, you wait till you die. But there's something in there that when you die, you'll give so much to the Rotary Foundation. And what some people are doing is they're taking out insurance policies and making Rotary International the beneficiary. And so all they're doing is paying like $35 or $40 a month in premiums. So that's the bequest society, $10,000 and up. Some people have worked their lives, they've become flush with money, and they want to show their support for Rotary Foundation. They've dedicated their adult lives to Rotary, and they want to show support for the foundation. And so they can make a major gift, a major donor. $10,000 minimum, and it goes up. There's levels of the major gift. And the last one, oh, and also in the major gifts, some people give money and they're in Rotary so long that it accumulates in your Rotary account, and you eventually hit the $10,000 mark, you become a major donor. You don't have to give out a whole bunch of money all at once. The last one is the Arch Clump Society. Now, I know this doesn't appeal to everybody. Many people will say, oh, never could do that. This starts at $250,000 US and goes up through $1 million US. Okay? You would be surprised how many Arch Clump members we have in District 7070. I know of 2 in the last 6 months. I know of 1 in the last year who gave $1 million. So this is happening. But it may be out of the realm of your thinking, but it can happen. One more thing. When you give money to the foundation, you know, some of the new people starting out, young people, just started their careers, they don't have much money. They just had a baby perhaps. They don't have a lot of money. To ask them to give $100 any one month, that may be a stretch for them. However, really what the foundation is asking for is 27 cents a day. 27 cents a day. Or $8.33 a month. And you can do that by something called Rotary Direct. And I would encourage you to encourage your members to do this. It's like the way you get your mortgage paid and they take the money out of your bank account, or they take the money, put it on your credit card, and you instruct them to do this, of course, every month. So you're going to say, oh, take $10 out a month. Are you going to miss $10 a month? No, but that'll give you your $100 a year. Okay, roughly. 12 months. I would encourage you to look at that yourself and do that. How am I doing? Oh, I'm over.
You're okay.
I just want to say one thing about EREY. Every Rotarian every year. Because there's some misinformation about that. It means just what it says. Every Rotarian should give something to Rotary every year. It doesn't say every Rotarian must give $100. It doesn't say that. It says every Rotarian must give something. Now, the general consensus in North America is that if you can afford to go to Rotary, pay your Rotary dues, pay the dinners and all the fundraisers that you have, you should be able to afford around $100. But $100 for Rotarians in rural Africa or in rural India or the Philippines, that's quite a challenge for them. So what the Rotary is saying is every Rotarian should give something. On the other hand of the thing, if you're, I don't want to pick on Toronto, if you're in the Toronto Club and you're making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, then $100 is what you spend on your bar bill at lunch. I think you should be giving more money than just the $100 and say, oh, I'm off the hook because I've given my $100. Okay, this is how I usually end this thing. If you believe in Rotary and you take great pride in the work that Rotary is doing around the world, and you realize that this work could not be done without the involvement of the Rotary Foundation, then why would a Rotarian give to the Rotary Foundation? Thanks for your time.